Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the GED Report. I'm G, and
I am D. How's it
so
going tonight, G-Man?
It's going pretty good up here in Colorado. It's bitter cold, hence the background on my Zoom page. It was nice and sunny today, but when the sun goes down, it gets pretty chilly. So we're in the mid 40s.
Is that Rocky Mountain National Park?
That is not Rocky Mountain National Park. That's just a scene somewhere. I wish it was. Although Rocky Mountain National Park, a third of it burned this year.
Wow.
Mostly on the western side. But in years past, we've had a tremendous, thanks to global warming, climate change, whatever term you want to use, we've had pine beetles move up from the south and invaded all of our forests. So we have a tremendous amount of beetle kill. So what these beetles do is they burrow into the bark deep into the tree, and they lay their eggs in there. And then their eggs burrow out, so they basically kill the tree. And so you drive by the forest, and there's just swath and swaths of dead trees. And there's no way to cut them all. And then you get a lightning strike, or in the case of one fire, you get a couple people violating the burn ban that has been in place for the last couple of years. People don't like to go camping if they can't have a big campfire. So they violate the burn ban. Wind blows in, picks up an ember, carries it 5 feet down the road, throws it into a pile of leaves, and next thing you know, you got a 30-year national park burn. But it'll recover. But yeah, it's kind of a tragedy. But anyway, we got a big show planned for you tonight. A lot of topics, a lot of things going on with the election, with Mr. Trump, and some other GOP news. So we're going to start with Mr. Trump. So Dee, tell us the latest on what's going on with our dear president.
Well, there's a lot of stuff happening, but a lot of it's behind the scenes. He's not really making any public appearances. He released a 46-minute videotape yesterday of a speech he gave in the White House with all with his presidential seal and all the powers of the presidency behind it, where you would think if he was releasing a video on December 2nd, which was the highest date in COVID hospitalizations and I believe COVID deaths since we've been in the pandemic, that his speech would have been about COVID, but he didn't mention COVID or coronavirus at all in the entire speech. His entire topic for 46 minutes was nothing but already debunked campaign conspiracy theories and election conspiracy theories about how he'd been ripped off and how the votes had been miscast and how there was all these illegal votes when everyone knows there's not a single stitch of proof to anything he's talking about.
Right. Well, now it's fair of him to not mention COVID, right? Because it's over, right? I mean, didn't he say it was all going away the day after the election?
Well, he did, and Ted Cruz did as well.
Right.
And we know Ted Cruz has been an awesome prognosticator of future events.
Right.
But, so you've got that going on. At the same time, the word on the street is that he had a meeting on Tuesday with Bob Barr behind the scenes, or Bill Barr, behind the scenes, where not Bob Barr, the old congressman from Georgia, but Bill Barr, the attorney general, the current attorney general, because we know that could change any moment. But where apparently it was a furious meeting because Barr came out earlier in the week in an interview with the Associated Press and said there's been no evidence of voter fraud that they've been able to find.
Right.
And so Trump was furious with him for that. And then in a press conference today in the Oval Office, Kristen Welker, which I thought was interesting that she was one of the debate moderators, but she was there. She did the vice. Did she do the vice presidential debate, or did she do the presidential?
Yes, she did the vice presidential. I'm pretty sure. I'll check that though.
Was it her, or was it? I'm trying to think. Susan Page.
Susan Page is with Gannett, right?
USA Today Gannett. Yeah.
I thought she did the last.
There might have been Welker that did the presidential debate, but anyway, she was the one who asked him, "What's your thoughts on Bill Barr? And do you still have confidence in him?" And Trump's quote was, "I'll get back to you in the next few weeks."
Yes, Susan Page was the VP.
Okay, so Kristen Welker did that last presidential debate and got pretty good reviews for it, but she did also have the power of the mute
Right. Yeah.
microphone.
I didn't see this little speech that Trump gave, but I did see a couple things on Facebook that I didn't get a chance to respond to. But let me ask you this. So one of the things I saw showed Trump sitting behind an itty bitty desk with the presidential seal on the front. Was that where he was giving this speech from? Or was that just a joke?
That was earlier in the week or late last week where he was signing some type of executive order. I don't know what it was, but he was behind a podium. And probably why you didn't hear much about this is most of the major networks, including Fox News, chose not to air it live, and they've only played snippets. And some shows, CNN, I think so far has refused to show any of it because they said it's just full of lies and innuendo and conspiracy theories,
right?
And bringing up
you kind of froze up,
and it goes back to Hugo Chavez, and so it's pretty wild. And so it bleeds over into the Georgia Senate race, the runoffs that are happening, and a couple of Trump surrogate lawyers, Lynn Wood, who used to represent him, and then I can't remember the woman's name. They just disavowed her as a member of
Sidney Powell.
Yes, that's it. Sidney Powell, no relation to Colin Powell. Those two basically encouraged Republicans not to vote in the primary, which had to make Mitch McConnell do a full spit take because that's the last thing you want right now is anything that encourages Republicans not to vote in that primary. But they said, until Brian Kemp throws out the election, the presidential results, then no one should vote, and they should go march around the governor's mansion and, according to Lynn Wood, quote unquote, blow their horns. So I guess it's like the where they in the Bible Jericho, where they marched the walls of Jericho and blew the trumpets blew the ram's horn, and the walls would come tumbling down.
Right.
But
they were built out of less structurally intact material than they are today, so it might not work.
Yeah, I think the 12 days of crazy have begun.
Right. If they only ended with 12.
Yeah. Right. So we'll see who survives the end of the week. If Barr survives, I would imagine that in that meeting, Trump probably put quite a bit of pressure on him to find something, show some evidence of something, or lose your job, which I don't really understand the threats on people's jobs for a couple of reasons. Number one, the term's going to end in 50 some odd days,
right
at 50 days. And number two, what kind of reputation is Bill Barr going to walk away with after this anyway?
Yeah, his fate was sealed a couple years back, I think. So, yeah. But speaking of the Justice Department and SCOTUS and that kind of thing, I wanted to chime in with what's going on in Pennsylvania. Have you heard about this, Dee?
I have heard a little bit about it, but why don't you give us the update?
Well, in a previous podcast, we basically said that the Trump administration's strategy now, since they can't seem to get any votes reversed during recounts, which, by the way, there's another recount in Georgia that's coming up. I think it's supposed to be finished by Tuesday, and that'll be the final one there. That's not the hand recount, but the machine recount. What they're hoping for there is that the machine recount comes back different than the hand recount, so that they can then say that the machines change votes. But we'll see about that. Anyway, in Pennsylvania, in a previous podcast, we said that the Trump administration was going to move to have all mail-in ballots. Pardon my interruption. All mail-in ballots they want to have them invalidated. And so today, the several GOPers in Pennsylvania asked Justice, I want to say Scalia. Alito, thank you. My brain went fuzzy on me. They've asked Justice Alito, who Pennsylvania is one of his states. So the Supreme Court divides up the states, and any emergency orders that come through get directed to certain justices. So Pennsylvania is assigned to Alito, and they've asked Alito to invalidate all mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania. Now, Alito can't do this himself. It's going to take a full vote by the Supreme Court, but he could, if he decides that he wants to, he could delay the certification process and the electoral selection process, and this could gum up the works. So that's what the Trump administration is hoping for now. They're hoping to gum up the works and somehow do a Hail Mary at the end and pull this thing out where Trump is made the president again through some mechanism other than the vote of the people.
So how does that make you feel, G-Man?
Well, it's going to tick me right off. And I think that it's going to tick off several million of those 80 million people that voted for Biden or voted against Trump, however you want to look at it. But, I think it just, let's just take Pennsylvania, for example. If you're one of the several 100,000 or a million plus that voted early and voted by mail-in, your vote's not going to count. And so what's the use in voting anymore if you follow the rules and then at the last minute they go, oh, thanks for following the rules, but now we're going to change them and your vote didn't really count. So yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I think we're really setting ourselves up for a challenge on democracy, and we've talked about that before. But just from a standpoint that if we're going to go through and the judicial branch is going to uniformly wipe out hundreds of thousands of votes to give somebody else a win, at that point, any talk of the judicial branch not being political, which we know it is already, but in the confirmation hearings, how, Lindsey Graham clutches his pearls and gets his blouse all ruffled because he wants to say we shouldn't make this a political process because it's an independent judiciary. We know it's a bunch of bunk, but it just proves that it is, because in all rights, these conservative justices who say they believe in states' rights and that the state legislature should decide these matters, the state courts have already decided this in Michigan, Wisconsin, and in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. It's all been decided. Right. There's no reason for the Supreme Court to intervene at this point at all.
Right. And as you and I have talked many times off air, a lot will be telling whether the Supreme Court says flatly, no, you don't have any standing, and, basically nips this thing in the bud, or if they accept this case and agree to hear arguments, presumably on an emergency basis. So, by, say, Monday, then this could throw a whole monkey wrench into the 2020 election. So, Justice Roberts, the Chief Justice, he's taken the tact that, these are, like you said, these are state matters. The Supreme Court shouldn't really be involved in them at all. And so we'll see how these new members of the court are going to vote and whether Justice Roberts' power is diminished at all. It's going to be very telling in the next day or two to see how that turns out.
Yeah, that last opinion on the overturning of the New York laws or the governor's executive order as far as limiting the number of folks who could attend worship services.
Yep.
That was a really big FU to John Roberts, if you read the decisions, and because Roberts had said this needs to be left up to the states. We've already adjudicated this, and he's the Chief Justice, and the five more conservative justices now basically said, we don't really care what you think. This is what we're going to do.
Right. And so that's why now you see why they wanted to rush Amy Coney Barrett onto the court.
Which I think everybody predicted that's what was going to happen. So
right. My mother-in-law says she thinks there'll be a civil war if they overturn this election and make Trump the president again. And I don't think she's far off in that.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me at all. It's definitely going to cause. I mean, when you've got almost half the population that doesn't believe the results were valid, even though they were,
Right.
and the losing side's done nothing to try to validate the process or have a peaceful transfer of power. They basically said, if we don't win, then we're going to say it's fake. If we win, I guarantee you, if Trump would have come out ahead in these states, you wouldn't have seen any of these challenges.
Right.
And people say, oh, the Democrats would have challenged it. No, they wouldn't have. Did they challenge? Did Hillary challenge the vote in Wisconsin as close as it was, or Michigan as close as it was? And those races were closer than they were this year.
Right. Yeah.
So should be interesting. So what's our next topic?
Well, I was going to switch gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about the great hoax, the Russia investigation. So most people think the Russia investigation has gone away, that it was all proven to be just a witch hunt, that Trump was totally vindicated, right? That the Russians were never involved in the 2016 election, and all that was proven, right? Well,
not exactly.
Not exactly, right? But that's what the Republicans want you to think. And that's what they're moving towards. So they have launched their own investigation by a guy named John Durham. And Durham has yet to turn over anything substantial. Now, he did get one person to plead guilty to falsifying a government document, which is akin to getting a 55-mile speeding ticket in a 35-mile zone. And so they got him to plead guilty to that, and he resigned his position. But they haven't turned over anything substantial. Trump was hoping that John Durham would bring up some dirt and prove that the Democrats spied on his campaign and basically set him up for failure and ridicule. Anyway.
Yeah, he did a good enough job of that himself. But all these baseless accusations that, Barack Obama and Joe Biden were spying on his campaign illegally and all these different things. Sure, there was and the guy who pled guilty on the falsifying the document, he filled out a FISA application wrong. Right. And he pled because the plea bargain was going to be a lot more generous than if they would have prosecuted him for it, because he signed the form. It's just like when you sign your tax return and you say, I'm justifying that everything on here is correct, and you make a mistake, technically they can prosecute you for that.
Yep.
So, So Barr did this back in October with Durham, gave him special counsel status. And so by doing that, he's hoping to continue the investigation into the Biden administration and hoping to set it apart to place it where basically Biden can't stop the investigation. It has to go on. He did it in October and didn't announce it because he said he didn't want to influence the election. I think it was more of a matter of he had cover of darkness to be able to do it.
Right. Yeah, because it kind of flew under the radar, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now, that being said, whoever the new attorney general is, which I was leaning towards Hillary Clinton or maybe Barack Obama as attorney general, but whoever the attorney general is, they
Sally
do have
Yates.
Sally Yates is a big contender for that. But whoever that is, they do have jurisdiction to stop the investigation if they want to. They can look at it and say, this is baseless and we're going to stop it. Barr is betting that it'll be too much bad PR, that Biden won't want the PR to say, oh, if they stop it, then what are they covering up, everything like that. So Barr's betting it'll go on. But they could also demand to see, as attorney general, she or he could demand to see, okay, what has your investigation shown so far? Look at the evidence and say, you need to either put charges forward or you need to end the investigation because this is going nowhere.
Well, now he was looking into this before October, right? I mean,
oh yeah, he's been looking into it since the mid part of this year, and the whole thing is looking at the Peter Strzok text messages to Lisa Page, who they were having the affair.
Right.
And Peter Strzok said Trump or Lisa Page said Trump can't win, and Peter Strzok said, "Don't worry, we've got an insurance policy." And it was the bluster of A, lovers talking in a text message, and B, just how people talk. We're going to stop this. We're not going to make it. Heck, you and I were counting 11 or 12 new Senate seats.
Yep.
For the Democrats. So it's the way people talk about elections, and it wasn't any kind of deep state QAnon theory where Peter Strzok had some kind of magical powers to be able to overthrow. I always laugh about how powerful they think that the deep state supposedly is. And I say, to myself, if the deep state was this powerful, do you think Mitch McConnell would still be in the Senate?
Right. Yeah,
so,
just common sense is out the window with these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
So go ahead.
I was going to say we'll see where that investigation ends up, but they're doing everything they can to try to force Trump's policies and make them be something that Biden has to continue and make it hard for him to undo.
Right. That takes us to our next topic. And the subject of our next topic is Miss Heidi Stirrup, Stirrup. And Miss Stirrup is an ally of top Trump advisor Stephen Miller. And of all the people that can exit the White House, Mr. Miller, in my book, cannot leave it fast enough. Anyway, Dee, have you heard about this story at all?
I don't think I have. I don't remember this being on the topic list. Maybe I took a nap a while ago. But
oh yeah. No, it's on the topic list.
Tell me about Heidi Stirrup.
All right, so.
She's the one that she took a little visit over to the Justice Department. Is that correct?
Yes, she's the official liaison from the White House to the Department of Justice. Turns out,
like an impressive title.
Right. Turns out that at least 3 people, maybe more, have told the Associated Press that she was summarily asked to leave the premises and not return.
Why would they ask her to leave?
Well, they learned that she was trying to collect insider information about ongoing cases and the department's work on election fraud. So basically, she was Trump's mole, sniffing around to see if there was any truth to the election fraud, or if the Justice Department was covering it up because they wanted Biden to be the president. Which, how crazy is that? Then it also comes out that she had extended job offers to political allies for positions at some of the highest levels of the Justice Department, without consulting any senior department officials or the White House counsel's office. Now, my guess is she consulted somebody in the White House.
Who could it be?
Let's see. Could be Stephen Miller. More than likely, it was Donald John Trump. And so they basically said, get the heck out of here and don't come back. It just goes to show you the height of the shenanigans this administration will go to perpetrate the hoax that this election was stolen.
Yeah, it's pretty unbelievable when you think about the fact that they're willing to send somebody over to justice to basically browbeat them into doing what they want them to do.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and it's not without precedent in the government. So, if you recall, the George W. Bush administration asked the CIA for proof that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. The CIA said, "We can't help you." So Cheney goes over to the Defense Intelligence Agency, the DIA, which a lot of people haven't heard of, but it's the CIA equivalent, but it's run out of the Department of Defense, and basically strong-armed them to come up with evidence, which they then gave to Colin Powell, who then took to the UN to justify our invasion of Iraq, which
Yeah,
turned out all to be a hoax.
it
So
was basically one of those situations of, do you have evidence for this? And they said no, and he said keep looking.
right, exactly. And so that's exactly what Trump's trying to do over at the Department of Justice. And by all accounts, with I'm guessing with this report that's now out, their attempts in the Justice Department basically asking her to leave and not return, that effort has failed.
Yeah, but one more nail in the coffin of Bill Barr's career as Attorney General.
Right. We've got a couple other topics, but real quick, I want to throw in here that White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah resigned today to, as they say, pursue other opportunities. And while there might be something nefarious in this, Trump might have fired her. He might not have liked the job she was doing. The bottom line, as you and I talked off air, is that this administration is winding down, that the more saner people in the White House realize they're soon to be out of a job. And amazingly enough, I'm guessing there's still some jobs out there for people that have served in the White House. There are probably some book deals to be had. And so in the next few weeks, we're going to see a lot more of this.
Absolutely. And anybody who has a ton of knowledge and wants to do a tell-all and wants G-Man and I to help co-write it, we're happy to do so. So
Absolutely. Just give me the call. Just leave us a comment on our podcast, and we'll get right back in touch with you. So that brings us.
Are we ready to talk about China Daily Bureau?
I was going to bring that up, Miss. I know this woman is near and dear to your heart, Miss Marsha Blackburn. Why don't you tell us what's going on with her?
Well, there's a little bit of a controversy brewing. I don't know if people realize what a trading partner China is for us, but huge part of our debt is owned by Chinese financial institutions. I mean, you go to look at the products that you use, whether it be iPhones or plastic cups from Walmart, different places like that.
I'm on a Lenovo laptop that came directly from China.
All from China, and but China's in a little bit of a dispute with Australia right now over some trade deals, and one of the accusations that China gets a lot of times is that they browbeat businesses into giving over the patents and the rights to their technology. Right. And if the company doesn't give it, they end up just trying to steal it. And so there's a lot of things going on. And Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee decided she wanted to weigh in on the situation and tweet out a picture of her drinking some Australian wine, which Australia is a big wine producing country. People don't realize that sometimes, but big wine producing country, and said she's going to do her part to support Australia by drinking Australian wine. And it started this whole tweet storm that she sent out, and she said, "Count me in, hashtag stand with Australia." And it showed her, she shared an article where politicians worldwide pledged to drink Australian wine to support Australia against China. And then Blackburn tweeted, "If China has nothing to hide about its mishandling of the coronavirus, why is it retaliating against Australia?"
Like then one she has tweeted, to do with the other.
Yeah, well, I think I think Australia has been pushing China to be more open about when they knew about the virus, and
right.
There's been some accusations back and forth. But then this is the money tweet right here where she said, Senator Marsha Blackburn again said, quote, "China has a 5,000-year history of cheating and stealing. Some things will never change. ... To which,
go ahead. I was going to say, how did China react to that? Because that had to tick them off, right?
Well, there's a government-owned media outlet that's controlled by the Chinese Communist Party called China Daily, and Chen Weihu, who's the chief Washington D.C. correspondent of China Daily, he responded in his he did a couple of tweets, but his first tweet was one word, and that word was bitch.
Well, I was going to say that's almost as classic as General McAuliffe's one-word answer to the Germans at Bastogne. Nuts.
Yeah.
Just to say, bitch.
Then he retweeted because he wasn't done again with the second one and said, "This is the most racist and ignorant U.S. senator I have seen. A lifetime bitch." So, well, I don't, and the GD report doesn't approve of this type of language. He definitely came off hot and strong at Senator Blackburn for her comments. So I'm imagining that she probably didn't expect that kind of reaction from China.
Right.
Probably didn't realize that China has the ability to read tweets.
Right. Block them, she'd probably think, but not to read them. So
Right.
yeah. I mean, it's just the thought that I had was that when Obama was in the White House, all you heard from the right was about how he was ruining our reputation abroad.
We're leading from behind.
Right. Drew and I went to Ireland, and there was countless billboards. I think I counted 11 before I stopped counting, thanking him for being such a great friend to Ireland. With big, huge pictures of Barack Obama up. I mean, why would you do that in another country if he wasn't from that country, and he wasn't your president? But anyway, and so my thought was just, geez, if they thought Obama was bad, I mean, how bad is this stuff? And
well, it just goes to show that, I saw a thing today about there was a college professor, and I forget where she was a professor, but she was talking about the way that you can use social media. Instead of calling people out, we should do more of calling people in and being more inclusive in our language. And it just proves that today's Republican Party, they're only interested in a quick soundbite, something
Right.
they think this is going to make me look tough against China. This might help me. She probably thinks she's going to run for president someday.
Right.
She probably thinks she could be a vice presidential contender. She wants to be tough and all that. Instead of thinking about a tweet, how's this going to play in the foreign press?
Right.
How's this going to play? I'm not just representing the state of Tennessee. I'm representing the United States of America, and taking that a little bit more serious in how they play around with social media. But yeah, I thought the same thing about the standing in the world, and I was just like, it's interesting to me that instead of somebody like her saying this is a good opportunity for us to have dialogue with China,
Right.
it would be a great opportunity for us maybe to bring back the Infectious Disease Control Commission that President Obama put in place in China.
Right.
Moving forward, the one that President Trump got rid of. But
yeah, first thing.
Today's Republican Party can never admit that they're wrong.
Right.
They can never do that. By the way, if you think Ireland was crazy for Obama, just wait till if you get a chance once the pandemic levels out to travel back to Ireland, because they're going crazy over Biden's roots in Ireland.
Oh, right.
His ancestral home. I saw a thing where you'll get a kick out of being political. I saw a piece, I think it was CBS Sunday Morning or 60 Minutes, and it was from where his grandfather came from. And so they had, of course, billboards everywhere, and it said ancestral home of future President Joe Biden. And there was a plumber in town there that had on his truck all fall. It said, and his name was Joe, and he went by Joe the plumber, which you'll enjoy.
Right.
It said Joe the plumber on his truck, and it said, have Joe the plumber in your house and put Joe Biden in the White House.
Yeah, that's great. Most people don't get the political reference there, but Joe the plumber was this guy. Turns out his name wasn't Joe, as I recall, but he was at a town hall in Ohio, I believe, for Obama when Obama was first running in 08, and he got right in his face and basically spit out a bunch of vitriol, and it went viral, and he made it on a few national talk shows and things like that.
Didn't he get a speaking spot at the Republican convention
Yeah,
too?
I think so. I was going to say, like Andy Warhol said, he got his 15 minutes worth of fame, but then thankfully he petered out like some of his plumbing activities.
Well, he was complaining about socialized medicine
Right.
and welfare and all this stuff, and come to find out the guy had been on all kinds of social programs, I believe. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So, typical.
so leave it to Marsha Blackburn to make us all proud and make us look good around the world.
Right.
A
So,
lifetime worth of it.
right. We want to end on a somber note. Um, Admittedly, a lot of the things that we talk about here on the GD report are of a partisan nature, and we don't apologize for that. We think that we have a pretty good handle on the way most Americans think things should be done, and we're not ashamed to call out the left wing or the right wing. And so there's some things going on in Washington right now that really demand your attention. But one of them in particular that if you want to see pristine spots around the world stay pristine, this is something where you need to call your senator. You need to call you need to flood the White House switchboard and tell them not to do this. But America has what the Wilderness Society calls America's Serengeti. You know what I'm talking about, D?
Yep, the Arctic National Wildlife Reserve.
Yeah. And so this is up in Alaska. It's a pristine part of the world. The Inuits use it as their ancestral hunting ground to hunt caribou, just like they did 2,000 years ago, right before anybody was here. Anyway, for years now, the Republicans have tried to work through Congress to enable oil companies to drill in what's called ANWR. That's the acronym for it. And they've never been able to get it done. So for about 30 years, they've talked about doing it. Various things have happened, deals have been struck, and it's remained pristine. But on January 6th, in the very last days of the Trump administration, the Bureau of Land Management has already scheduled sale dates to sell off drilling rights in ANWR. And we need to somehow stop this. We need to call, we need to write letters, write emails, whatever we can do. But we need to get this pristine part of the world in our backyard. We need to save it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, it's funny how the environment has gotten politicized. And you and I have talked about this before, but the EPA was actually founded under Richard Nixon.
Right.
And he was one of the first really presidents to push for the environmental movement, the kind of the earth movement that came out of the 70s. Things like, and my dad was a longtime subscriber to Mother Earth News, and we had a solar heater on our house before anybody even knew what solar heaters were.
Right.
And so it's alternative energy and saving the environment. I mean, I've never had the chance or the blessing to go to ANWR and to be able to see ANWR, but someday I hope to. And if I don't get to, hopefully my children, grandchildren, or nieces and nephews, hopefully they'll get to go see it. But the thing about anytime you have an environmental impact on something as pristine as this is, from the minute you do your first drill, you can never get back what's lost, ever.
Right. Yep.
It never comes back. Imagine if there seems to be almost a pornographic obsession with the right wing now to want to go after these areas. They want to, mine for uranium in the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
They want to, try to do steam or other mining in Yellowstone. And if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, or you've ever been to Yellowstone, you've ever been to some of the beautiful parts of our world, you know that those are special places.
Yep.
And we should do everything we can to keep those. And it definitely shouldn't be done under cover of darkness in the last days of an administration.
No.
Jamming this through. So I hope it can be stalled. I understood in an article I read yesterday that some of the career folks at Interior have some tools at their disposal where they can delay the processing of these applications.
Right.
And they're trying everything they can to delay those. And even if it's some what John Lewis used to call, the late Representative John Lewis used to call good trouble, where you know, if an application happened to get misplaced for a couple of days, or the
Right.
wrong form happened to be filled out because that's what was given somebody.
Right.
But I understand they're doing everything they can to try to stop this from happening at Interior, and I applaud them and any effort they can do to cause this kind of good trouble, because there's no way this should be jammed through.
Right. I
No
do
amount
want
of
to.
oil, no amount of oil is worth it.
Right. I do want to give a shout out to some companies that I personally do not care for, and at least two I've had personal history with. But I want to mention these companies: Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, Chase, Wells Fargo, Citibank, and Bank of America. And those are the cream of the crop of the nation's banking system. They have all, every single one of them, announced that they will not finance any drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge.
Yeah,
So,
that's phenomenal. That's
yeah.
phenomenal.
So,
Wait, I thought you had a whole bunch of business with Goldman Sachs, by the way.
no, there's a couple other on the list, but not Goldman. But, it just goes to show that there are people out there that are standing up and saying, hey, we don't want this. And if you want it, then we don't want to do business with you. So you're going to have to find your money elsewhere. Now, that doesn't mean Anwar's out of the woods, because there's private equity firms like the one that owns the Denver Post here in town that conceivably could say, hey, this is be good for business, and they jump right on it. But like you said, hopefully the good folks at Interior can slow this down. Biden can come in and we can get this reversed and get it back. But the thing is, and this maybe is a future topic for us to discuss, like I said, this has been something for at least 30 years Republicans have been trying to jam through. It's only a matter of time before they get things switched, which they always do. The pendulum always goes back, and they get control of the Congress and they get control of the White House at the same time, and they decide we're going for it, we're going to drill, and then we've lost it. So we need to figure out some way, constitutional amendment or something, where we make this totally off limits, and so it stays the way it is forever.
Yeah, I agree. But wait a minute. The only problem I have with your premise is that, according to Lindsey Graham, if we don't throw out the mail ballots in this election, then Republicans will never win the White House again. So we shouldn't have to worry about it, because we're not going to throw out the mail ballots, unless he was talking about mail MALE ballots or something. I don't know.
Right. Well, one of the things I'm looking forward to is seeing Mr. Graham in a subservient role and not a leadership role on those
Well,
committees.
and you may be looking at him facing some charges too, because there was a former U.S. attorney that petitioned the Alabama Election Commission to file charges against him for election tampering. There's like 4 different felonies that he committed, or allegedly committed, by what he did with Raffensperger. So
Right.
should be interesting. But I didn't want to sidetrack. This is one of my really bad jokes there.
Right.
Anwar's, it's important, and it's a serious topic, and everybody needs to do everything they can to get involved. And it shouldn't be a partisan issue.
Yeah, this should
It
not.
really shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So, hey, everybody, it's been another great time visiting with you, and hope you're enjoying it. We've got a comment from, I think, Denmark last week.
We did. Yep.
And we've got some comments from some other folks. So please leave us a comment in the chat or in the comment section on any of the videos. Shoot us an email. Get on our website, thegdreport.com. Check us out there. And let us know what you're thinking. We may do a Facebook poll coming up on some different topics, so be looking for that. And above all else, be safe. Take care of your family. If you're going to go out, wear a mask. Let's get through this pandemic together.
Right.
Whether we agree on politics or not, I think the one thing we all can agree on is we want everybody to be safe and everybody to survive this.
Right.
And
I
hope 6 months from now or a year from now, I hope I can be sitting in a bar in Denver with Gunner, with G-Man, I should say,
Right.
and some of his conservative friends, and we can be arguing about politics, but not
Right.
worried about our lives.
Right. And I just wanted to say, I saw Dr. Fauci say that he anticipates surges upon surges.
Right.
So this thing, it mirrors the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. If you look back at history, there were anti-maskers back then. We had a slow start, and then it ballooned up, and 50 to 100 million people got killed from the Spanish flu. And while we haven't hit those numbers yet, this thing is just in the beginning. If we don't take steps now to kind of get it under control, my fear is that we're already past that. But here's hoping. So wear your mask, do your social distancing. Please don't travel over the holidays. Do a Zoom call with your loved ones. Everybody has a cell phone. You can FaceTime. I mean, there's ways to share your joy without putting your life at risk.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. Thanks a bunch. Click subscribe when you're watching this, so you can know when our next one's coming up, because we tend to do these on a regular basis, but every now and then we'll throw one in just as current events warrant, and you want to keep up with that. So thanks for your support, and we'll see you on the next one.
Everybody have a good night.
Bye bye.